Welcome to the channel, guys. So today's going to be a Kubota project, and I have an issue with the machine. If you didn't realize on that first clip that I showed, that it squeals a lot, and this is an ongoing thing, and I'm pretty sure it's related to the belt that drives the water pump and also the alternator. And what's happening is it's old and it's worn out, and it's stretching. I've gone ahead before and actually adjusted it so it's tighter, but it's such an old belt that it is past its adjustment, and I'm going to go ahead and replace that, as well as the AC belt on this. So there's a belt that goes from the crank pulley to the AC compressor, and then there's another one that goes, like I said, from the crank to the water pump, the fan, as well as the alternator. Now, I had an issue with this not too long ago on like a hot day. The belt was slipping so much that it wasn't driving the fan properly, and it actually was overheating the machine. I thought I blew a head gasket or something because it was boiling the coolant, and it was just pouring out on the bottom of the machine all over the tracks. But come to find out, it was a simple fix. All I had to do at that point was to tighten up the belt just a little bit more by swinging the alternator back, further out, and then tightening it back up and adjusting that. And that took care of it for a while to get me through, but now it's time to actually do the full replacement of the belts. That way I don't have to continue with this problem and possibly even lose the belt completely and have it break on me during the winter time, which is going to be really cold here in New England. So I want to take care of this before it gets to that point. So as you can see, I went ahead and hosed off the machine really quickly today. And I took care of that. I'm going to go ahead and clean the cab because it's filthy. I want to get it ready for the winter season because I use it to bring in firewood in bins. Big like Ice BC totes that I use, and I fill up with firewood. And I use the pallets, and I use the forks to actually lift those pallets up and bring them to the garage, so it's easier for me. And then I keep everything in the garage so it's nice and dry. But having the forks on the machine is awesome. So I'm going to go ahead now and start taking things apart, get the machine closer to the garage, and then I'll update you guys what the process looks like and what has to come off. And it should be a pretty simple process. It's not that complicated, but I will need to remove like the fan shroud and everything. Alright guys, so here are the two belts I will be replacing. This is the larger one, which goes around the fan, crank, and alternator, and this is the AC one. Now, I went ahead and just kind of looked up the part numbers off the existing belts and kind of cross-searched or cross-referenced to find something. And I will put the link for these on the from Amazon below the video, so take a look at that if you're interested. So we have this Made in India belt. It says USA, but I don't know, it's a High Life. That is the part number. But I will put the links down below, so check those out. And this is a Bando 2335. Alright, so let me go ahead and start taking the machine apart, and I'll update you guys from there. Alright guys, so quick update on what's going on. I got the belts off. That's what they look like. They're all dry rotted. Look like complete shit, both of them. This one looks like it actually is wearing down to the cord a little bit. It'll reduce its size and width because it was just rubbing for so long at times. So at first I wanted to remove the fan blade, which is probably easier to do and be able to reach in there and get your arm in there, but I did not do that because the 10mm bolts that hold this thing on, I think they're Loctited, and when I tried to back them out, they would not move. So I didn't want to push it any further and possibly risk them snapping the head off as me trying to unloosen them. So I left the fan on, which made things a lot harder, but I was able to still get to the adjustment bolt and the pivot bolt to remove the tension on both belts. Now you're going to have to work from this side here and from the top in this direction where the intake tube is. You're going to have to remove that, put it aside, and you can get down from the top. Now, the process was I first went ahead and loosened the tension on the alternator belt, which goes around the fan. And you have to remove the AC belt to get to the alternator belt and get that all off. So no matter what, you have to take both belts off. if you're replacing the fan belt and that alternator belt, which is the same one. So that was the first one I did. I went down from the top, I loosened the adjustment, got both loose. I was able to do it from one from the top and one from the bottom here. Those bolts on the alternator are two different bolts, so keep that in mind. There's a 12 millimeter on the top and a 14 on the bottom. It's going to throw you off if you don't pick up on that. The ones in the bottom for the AC compressor are both 12 millimeter. So for me to get the alternator loosened, for me to get the AC compressor loosened up, it was a lot of pain in the ass, because I basically had to reach in with my arm. I disconnected these harnesses, these plugs here that were sticking out, so it gave me more room to reach my arm all the way in there to get to the adjustment bolt and the pivot bolt where it's secured. The pivot bolt on the bottom is the most difficult one to get to, but I was able to get in there with this right here. You want to sneak yourself in there with a 12 millimeter ratcheting combination wrench. Okay, this ratchets, and then I snuck that in there. I basically set it up so it was just right where on the top of the swing, and then I came in with this piece of wood right on the top of the wrench, right here, as it's sitting in this orientation when it's on the bolt, and I came down from the top here with the piece of wood and pushed down a few ratchets at a time until I got it loose, and then I was able to do it by hand in this direction here by reaching all the way deep in here and loosening it up. So there's kind of a trick to it. You have to use really low profile tools. Ratcheting combination wrench is the key. If you're using a regular wrench, good luck. It's going to be a pain in the ass. But I was able to loosen that top 12 millimeter on the AC compressor from the top, like I said, from where the intake tube is. Reach down and you can get to that easily. But this one here on the bottom is the biggest pain in the ass, but I was able to get it off. So hopefully that's some good information for you guys trying to do this you know, maintenance. It's kind of a pain in the ass. It's really tight, especially this fan. Like I said, I think the bolts are Loctited on, so don't even try backing those out, because you might end up snapping that off, and then you're going to have a fan that's not going to be balanced and running untrue, and it's probably going to cause excessive vibration because it doesn't have all the bolts holding it on. So don't even mess with that. If you have small enough arms, you'll be able to get in there. I have pretty big arms and I was able to do it, so most of you guys will probably be fine. So I'm going to go ahead now and replace the belts, get everything tightened up and where it should be, and then I'll go ahead and give you guys a quick summary of the whole belt upgrade and belt maintenance on this right here. Alright, so I have the AC compressor belt on, and this is how I came up with a way to tension it with one person, because it's very difficult, because the AC compressor is kind of on the back side and you have to push on it to take out the tension and get that tension right. And then I cinch down that top adjusting bolt, that way it's not going to move. And then now I can go ahead and remove the wedge and stick, and then go ahead and tighten that bottom bolt, the pivot bolt, and fully tighten the actual AC compressor unit on the machine. That way it's not going to move and the belt is tensioned. So I'm going to have to do the same thing kind of with the other belt as well. That bigger belt that goes to the fan and the alternator. I will be going down from the top like I did last time. You have to put tension on the bracket, the assembly for the alternator, press down and then tighten the adjusting bolt, and then you can go ahead and then tighten the other bolt on the bottom. So that's the process of tensioning it with one person. Otherwise, if you have two people, it could be easier. One person holds it back while you go ahead and tighten it. But that's what I'm doing here, a very simple way of doing it. It's just a wedge with a stick and pressing against the actual housing of the AC compressor to push it into place. Alright, so let me go ahead and finish up and I'll give you guys a summary. Alright, so don't forget those bottom bolts on the AC compressor. That's the very last bolt you want to do. And then I went ahead and installed the larger water pump and alternator belt. Went ahead and tensioned it up. As you can see here, I used a tie down with that same piece of wood, pushing on the housing, and also it's anchored on this side here on the tank. So not a lot of tension, just enough to tension the belt, and then I gave it a little tap on the end here to settle it, and then I would check my tension, and then I would tighten it accordingly. And then I went ahead and tightened that top bolt, and then the very last bolt's going to be the bottom bolt on the alternator. So bottom bolts are very important. Those are the last ones you want to do, but you have to do it one belt at a time. So keep that in mind. And I'm pretty much done here. I'm going to go ahead and tighten everything up and give you guys a start up and see how it sounds and see if it got rid of the squeak. Alright guys, so as you can see in the previous clip, there was no more squeak, and I am really happy now because the machine can operate quietly and no more super annoying sound coming from the back end. Everything went well, everything is tightened up and adjusted the way it should, and the machine should be happy now. But check out my other excavator related videos. I have a whole bunch. I will link the playlist up in the upper corner, so check those out. I'm always doing different things here in the homestead and in the garage workshop, so check out my other videos and subscribe. But I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.